Let's talk about why an avoidant might be stonewalling you and how you can respond. Welcome to Attachment Theory. If you're new here, here's the 4 main attachment styles, and today we're going to be talking about the dismissive avoidant and why they might be stonewalling you. Okay, so if you don't know, stonewalling is when someone just completely shuts down, right, and just stops communicating with you, right? And this typically happens during conflict or a high stress situation, or if there's emotional overwhelm or something triggers an avoidant to stonewall. And when the avoidant engages in stonewalling, it's typically, again, because they feel emotionally overwhelmed. There's a sense of emotional intensity that they're not comfortable with, emotional pressure, and they just don't know how to handle it. So their instinct is to just withdraw and just stonewall, just shut down and just stop communication. Now, there's a difference between stonewalling and the silent treatment, where don't confuse the two, because the silent treatment is more manipulative. Okay, it's more intentional, and it's typically done by someone who may be a narcissist. And this is where they'll use silence, the silent treatment, as a way to punish you, manipulate you, intentionally hurt you. Whereas an avoidant, they don't really know that their stonewalling is hurtful. It's not really their intention. There's not much of an awareness going on there. So they don't know that they're hurting you. Though if you're on the receiving end of this, it can be very hurtful. Even though that may not be their intention, it can still be very hurtful. And I can empathize with that. I can empathize with your situation. So what are some of the reasons why an avoidant might stonewall? Well, let's go over some of them. So again, emotional overwhelm or emotional overload. Okay, so avoidants really struggle with processing their emotions. They're the slowest attachment style in regards to processing their emotions. They process them much slower than the other attachment styles, especially when they feel as if they're being pulled or forced into an intense emotional conversation, an emotional discussion, right? That would require vulnerability, which is something they're not comfortable with. Okay, so this is really going to cause them to feel overwhelmed with emotion. So they're going to stonewall as a way to protect themselves, right? So they'll refuse to engage in these kinds of conversations, these deep, emotionally intense conversations. And it's more comfortable for them to just shut down completely as opposed to engage in that conversation with their partner and show those emotions, show that vulnerability. So this just helps them to create distance. And they kind of just feel safer this way by just stonewalling, by just not communicating, by just not really giving a reason or explanation, because they struggle with expressing their needs, right? So another reason is a fear of conflict. Now, two securely attached people, healthy partners who trust each other, they'll be able to sit down together and have a healthy conversation about whatever the conflict is, right? And express their emotions and meet each other's needs. And they'll be able to meet each other's vulnerability with safety because they are both secure and there's a sense of trust there in that relationship. But an avoidant is not comfortable sitting down and having these kinds of conversations about how to navigate conflict resolution, right? Because again, it requires vulnerability and it's just not something they're comfortable with. So this is another reason why they will shut down, is because of this fear of conflict. Now, and it might sound simple, okay? Maybe if you have a secure attachment, or it sounds simple just looking at it from the outside, like, oh, just talk things out, just communicate with each other. But try to empathize with the avoidant and their perspective. It is hard for them. It is hard for them to communicate their emotions, their needs, express their emotions. This is why they shut down, because of this fear of conflict, right? Because it feels threatening to them, okay? It feels threatening. And so instead of confronting the issue, instead of sitting down and confronting this issue and addressing it and having this discussion, they're just going to withdraw and refuse to communicate because they believe that, well, this is safer. It's safer to stonewall and just pull away rather than address this issue. So stonewalling allows them to escape kind of escape the need for that conversation regarding conflict resolution, because they think that conversation is going to make things worse. When, of course, when you're dealing with a secure, healthy person, no, it's going to do wonders for the relationship. But avoidants don't feel that way. They think that conversation regarding addressing that conflict is going to make things worse, which is why they will stonewall. And another reason is they have a need for space, right? So avoidants, they really value their independence too much, okay? They are hyper independent. Now, yes, independence is healthy. I say this all the time. Emotional independence is healthy. It's something that we should all have. But avoidants are hyper independent, okay? And that is not healthy. That's an insecurity, and it's hard for it's hard for the relationship having that sense of hyper independence, right? So when they feel like their independence is being threatened, their emotional independence, or maybe they're being asked to connect on a deeper level, on a deeper emotional level, more than they're comfortable with, then this is going to cause them to stonewall. Because although they crave connection, because they're human, okay, they crave human connection, that can also threaten their emotional independence, and that scares them. Okay, so they will stonewall as a defense mechanism to avoid surrendering their independence, surrendering their emotional independence to the relationship, to their partner. So stonewalling allows them to kind of regain control of their emotional independence, right? So yes, a stonewalling, it's a sign that the avoidant is just they're struggling to balance their emotional needs with the demands for the relationship, right? The basic demands for any healthy relationship: vulnerability, healthy communication, right? An avoidant, these things scare an avoidant. They're not comfortable with it, even though they're very healthy and necessary for a relationship to strive. But understanding their need for space, understanding the avoidance need for space, understanding, kind of empathizing with them, why they might stonewall, knowing that it's unintentional, it's a way that they protect themselves. It can really help you just understand them more and communicate them more and respond in a healthy way when they stonewall. So let's go over some of that. When they stonewall, what are some of the ways that you can respond? So let's give them their space, right? If we sense that they're stonewalling, let's go ahead and give them their space. Let's take a step back and let's use this as an opportunity to soothe ourselves, to process our own emotions, to self-reflect on ourselves and the relationship, right? So this is a good opportunity to take some time for ourselves. Step back and give them their space and give yourself some space. And when communicating with them, when it comes time to communicate with them, you can use I statements instead of you statements. This is going to make the avoidant feel more comfortable, okay? So instead of accusing them, instead of saying you statements like, why are you ignoring me? Why won't you talk to me? Why are you shutting down, right? A better way to say this, a better way to come across, you can say, hey, I love it when we can talk and when we can be there for each other. Something, a simple statement like that, a simple I statement, you see how different that is from using a you statement? It just comes across as more comfortable. It comes across as with more emotional safety, and an avoidant will really appreciate this when you can come across that way. And this is very important. Stay calm and relaxed. And again, if you are on the receiving end of stonewalling, I know it can be hurtful. Again, I can empathize with this. I do not agree with an avoidant stonewalling. I'm not saying I agree with that behavior. It's not healthy behavior, okay? And I know that it can be hurtful when you're on the receiving end of this. But I'm just giving you some advice, okay? My advice is to try to empathize with them and remain calm and relaxed, because it can be very easy, especially if you have an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. It can be very easy for their stonewalling to trigger your insecurities and for you to go into panic mode. It can trigger your nervous system, right? Your anxiety, and you might respond in ways that are not very healthy. like holding on tighter to the relationship, pressuring them more pressuring them to open up, right? This is not healthy. So my advice is to remain calm and relaxed and follow these ways on how to respond when they stonewall. It's just going to be healthy for the relationship, and the avoidant is more likely to respond when you give them their space, when you use I statements, when you can practice empathy, when you can remain calm and relaxed and not let their stonewalling, don't let their stonewalling trigger your insecurities, trigger your anxiety. Now, again, the first step was give them space, right? Remember, I said we give them space, and then we use that opportunity for ourselves. We use that as an opportunity to take space for ourselves, right? So we can take this time to process our own emotions. That way, they are not triggering our anxiety. That way, they're not triggering our insecurities in a way that we might respond that is unhealthy. So this is why we take that space for ourselves, so that we can practice our own emotional self-soothing. It's good, and it's just going to be healthier for us. It's going to help to build that secure attachment style that we all want. So I hope I brought some good into your life today. If so, please like and subscribe, and please share your stories in the comment section. Has a partner ever stonewalled on you? How did you respond? How would you do things differently? What was the outcome? Share your stories in the comments section. Let's get the discussion going. And if you think this video might help somebody, please share it with them. And until next time, you take care. I'll see you in the next.